This is your every other week broadcast about what's going on in the crypto world from two guys that know a little bit about it. But our whole goal in this podcast is kind of to educate, just like, not just the beginner, but the seasoned person a bit. But, my sweet spot is people that don't know a lot about crypto because whether you like it or not, what's going on in the world economy is going to affect us all. And you need to understand that down the road here, not too far, everybody's going to be on blockchain technology. So my partner over here, Mr. Brett Jenny, is just I call him. He is the Bitcoin market crypto expert. He is awesome, man.
Well,
he teaches it. Yeah,
I always
he'll tell the truth.
Yeah, so I mean I'm just here for the tech, right? So I always tell people as far as Bitcoin in the market, the markets are going to go up and markets are going to go down. Markets are manipulated and controlled by humans, so you're always going to have that. And I'm just here for the technology, which is blockchain. And that's something that is the technology behind every single cryptocurrency. So they get, lamped into the same pool. But the technology behind it, blockchain, is what's actually going to be affecting every single business in the future. Every single business. It's basically a digital ledger that's completely transparent online. So whatever you're facilitating, from assets to money to information and data, whatever it is, it can all be facilitated through the blockchain. And the reason what that comes into effect is it allows you to track something immediately. I think I said this before, which is if you're talking about, let's take Walmart for an example, and they have all their vegetables that come from all these different farms throughout the entire United States. Well, if there's an E. coli breakout in, say, their spinach, they're able through blockchain within seconds to be able to identify what farm it came from and what batch and be able to take care of the situation. That's just one effect of what blockchain can do in just the various different ways, besides facilitating and transferring value and money.
Absolutely.
How you like that speech?
Hey man, that was good. That was excellent information. But that's stuff people need to know because they don't understand it. Most people don't, 90% of people don't understand this stuff. Because it's, I'm not a super duper expert, but I know my fair share. I've been in the space heavily for about 3 years now. If you don't know me, I'm Uncle Dan Evertsz. And again, my buddy Brett Jenny over here. This is the Crypto and Cash podcast, and we're here to help educate you. Now, did you hear, Brett, that, the SEC chairman, he's Gary Gensler. He's on a mission, man. I mean, he is really going.
He is. I was just reading that. What's kind of the odd thing about Gary is, so when I first learned about blockchain was in 2017. 2018 is, I started buying cryptocurrency in 2017, but I first sat down to start learning about the technology in blockchain and what it actually did in 2018. And the very first video I ever watched about blockchain technology was taught. It was, I believe, a 3 or 4 hour class at MIT.
Oh, yeah.
Where Gary Gensler was teaching blockchain. So it's ironic that Gary is the SEC chairman and he's going after all these people in the space, and he of all people knows about blockchain and what it does. And, listen, we need regulation, but the problem is you have literally 3 or 4 different government bodies right now that are all trying to go after the crypto industry.
Yep.
And there's no set rules and regulations of who's going after what and why they're going after what. It's basically a free-for-all because there's no set rules and regulations, so nobody knows exactly who has authority in this and who has authority on that. And then you have Gary Gensler, who's basically going after and just randomly attacking different sectors.
Absolutely.
One time it's staking, the next time it's Bitcoin mining and selling the mining tools as a security. Just, it's like he's just picking and choosing. There's no rhyme or reason. And it's just kind of just throwing things against the wall and seeing what sticks right now, which is why we do need regulation. We need one body that's going to say, we're going to be the ruling body, and these are the rules, and these are the regulations. And from that point on, everything, it's very clear cut.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, you don't know where he's going every week, but he's like the czar of crypto. And
that's the problem.
I know
that's the problem, which is he shouldn't be the czar of crypto.
Right.
They should have their own czar. They should have their own department. And
absolutely.
We're all about that. But get together then and allow some framework to happen. But the problem is you've got the powers that already be right now.
Right.
And they don't want to give up the powers that be. And so who do you think Gary ultimately represents right now? The government and the powers that be.
Yeah, he's a Goldman Sachs guy. You know that, right?
Yes, absolutely. He's the system.
He is absolutely the system. And like you said, they're pushing back because they want to keep control, so they control your money, they control every aspect of your life, or at least they try to. And so cryptocurrency coming out, from nowhere really, it's changing everything, and that's why they're pushing back so hard. I just want to read this real quick for you. It says, U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission SEC Chair Gary Gensler pushed back on the idea that crypto exchanges could be safe, qualified custodians for investment advisors. Speaking at an investment advisory committee meeting Thursday, Gensler said in a recent proposed rule directing investment advisors to look to qualify custodians for storage of assets, including cryptocurrencies, makes important enhancements to existing protection rules. He also said crypto exchanges should not be considered safe under those guidelines. Now he's making a big U-turn. And so, I'm sure if I was an exchange, it would shake me up a little bit to hear that come out of his mouth, because.
So here's the important part in that you're reading, which he's talking about the custodianship.
Right.
So they're saying if we have any form of custodianship right now, it's only going to be the only people that are going to have access to that are, guess what? The legacy bank system of players that are already in play. The problem with that is, number one, it's counterintuitive to their best interest, because their product is the other product. That's their,
right.
that's the top dog right now, and this is what's competing against it. So right there, you have a vested interest. Number two, most importantly, is I understand they're very good at Goldman Sachs. I understand they're very good with financing, and they may have PhDs and make a ton of money, investing and all that stuff. But crypto and cryptocurrency is an entirely different world.
Absolutely.
And so there are plenty of qualified people who come from the SEC, who come from banking, that want to lead the front. Let me give you an example. One of them is Custodio, I believe. Is that the bank? Custodio, yeah. So Custodio is, where was my screen at here? Sorry, I'm trying to.
Oh, it's okay. In the meantime, while you're looking for that, a lot of this stuff is coming back because of what happened with Sam Bankman-Fried. Yeah. And that's giving a lot of people who just want to criticize the
industry. But that's what I'm saying is, Custodian, that bank I was just telling you about. That's what Caitlin Long. Caitlin Long has a Harvard law degree. Okay. She worked on Wall Street for like 25 years.
Right.
And she has a bank that knows how to deal with this properly. And what they're doing is rejecting her bank and banks that are actually qualified for this, who know what they're doing, on every given form. They're rejecting them. And they're kicking it back to, well, the only people that we're going to revert this power to are the traditional legacy system of people who already have the vested interest for the opposite. And number two, don't really know what they're doing.
Right.
So it's one of those things where if you know something's the future, you want it to go the right way. You need to have a say in things going the right way. It's like the internet. It can be used for good. It can be used for bad. Right.
Yep.
You need people, the powers that be behind that, to know what they're doing. And, in that sense, that's who's they're looking towards having custodialship of it.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is. But how do you break through that system, Dan? That's the problem. How do you allow it to have the adoption that it needs? But then,
Brett, man, all of these other countries around the world are so far ahead of us. Mm-hmm. That's what's really interesting. I mean, we're okay, but a lot of these countries, they're coming up with legislation. They just go right through. This is what the legislation is going to be. Bam, it's done. But it seems like because it's just the political situation, the Democrats versus the Republicans. The SEC versus the other departments that regulate crypto. It's just crazy. I'm like, my God.
That's the thing. At the end of the day, it's not going to be something it suits us best now to get ahead of this and adopt it properly and set up the proper establishment and platform for it. Because if we don't, it's happening, like you said, in all these other countries around the world as we speak. And it's only going to keep on happening and keep on happening and keep on happening before sooner than later. It's not a matter if we want to, it's a matter of we have to. And the choice is already made then. So we're in a much different position then than we would be now if we could get ahead of it.
Absolutely. Wow. That's just absolutely amazing. Well, can't, anyway, it's just still like the wild, wild west sort of. And, eventually we're going to have to do something. There's a lot of people in the crypto space that, they're just really, really they're just kind of frustrated. Can you imagine if you had an exchange where you're dealing with millions and millions of dollars and you make a move and you don't know whether it's the right move or the wrong move, and all of a sudden the SEC says it's the wrong move, we're going to fire you, we're going to fine you $100 million. And what can you do?
That's the thing. That's what they want to do, right? That's what the SEC wants to do, is they want to scare you to the point where you're going to think twice, 3 and 4 times and 5 times before you start an exchange. And if you do it at your own risk of us coming at you when we want to, if we want to.
Right.
So, but the problem is that most of these exchanges aren't based in the United States.
Right.
So what are you going to do?
Yeah. How are you going to do this?
So, but so let's talk a little bit about how your stock's doing, Dan.
Man,
those things are going up and down, right?
Man, please. I'm not a stock guy. A lot of guys.
No, you don't do stocks at all?
Very, very little. I just very little. I just the safe stuff, but still, it's like I don't have much faith in the stock market. I'll be honest with you, because I just don't know what's going to happen, man. Just looking at what's going on around the world with the, with the banking industries. Somebody sent me an article yesterday about Lagos, Nigeria. The banks locked down everybody. You couldn't withdraw any money out of the banking system. Mm-hmm. So I wonder, and a lot of people, some people call them conspiracy people, or like I have a buddy of mine, he's heavily into that. He's always sending me stuff on that. But
one of my buddies too.
I'm like, man. So I'm like, if things happen, the doom and gloom guys, right? If things happen like that, that's the end of the United States. It really is. What happens if if they say you can't take your money out when you have to pay your bills? What are you supposed to do? If you owe money to the IRS and you're supposed to make a payment, what are you supposed to do? It's crazy. I understand now. I do understand that one of the big things that kind of not confirms that kind of is happening. If you try to walk into your bank and you try to withdraw, say, $5,000 or more in cash, you're going to have a heck of a hard time doing that. You really are.
I told you, I watched that video with, what's that guy? Grant Cardone.
Yes.
It was Grant Cardone's brother. And his brother looks just like him, by the way. Talks just like same mannerisms, everything.
Uh-huh.
But he talked in the video, he was on a podcast, and he said that one day he basically was at the bank right when the doors opened, and he was standing there with $1 million cash that he had to deposit.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The bank was like, what are you doing? We can't take this. And he's like, what do you mean you can't take this? You're my bank and it's cash.
Right.
It's $1 million. And they're like, it's $1 million cash.
Right.
And they said, we literally can't take this. He said, listen, I'm getting on a plane in 3 hours and you need to take this cash. So they had to literally call in the branch manager and shut down the bank so they could deposit the money. I mean, that's just to take money. Try walking in with 100,000, 100. That's just to take the money. Excuse me. That's not even to take anything out.
Right.
They don't have the cash there.
Right.
It's all just a push of a button. And I was watching CNBC this morning, Kevin McCarthy. So whether you're Democrat or Republican, I'm not here to have any kind of political debate. But the fact that he was talking about was that the amount of interest that we're going to pay this next year coming up on our debt ceiling to pay is $20 trillion. All of our other debts that we've had to pay for our interest in all the past 80 years has been $9 trillion. Our interest rate is $20 trillion because of all the money that we've printed in the past 3 years.
Right.
Our literal interest payment is $20 trillion. And all the previous 80 years, it's been 9.
That just
change, or you get to that point where it doesn't matter how much we print or how much negotiation or viewpoint esteem the world has of us. It's not going to matter, man, because when people just stop getting paid, they just don't. It shuts down.
I hate to say it, but it kind of goes along with what these conspiracy guys are talking about. You know,
here's the thing. In some ways, they're right, which is why it's hard to have, to debate them sometimes, because you're like, well, it's the same thing. It's like with these conspiracy theories, it's like, well, now that the internet came out, we found out that in the past, like with the government's performed medical experiments on people.
Yeah,
they've lied about things in the past. They've done all these things. So it's not that people don't want to believe the government and the banking and all this stuff. It's just like once you catch someone lying or slipping from the truth, then you've literally opened that Pandora's box for all these other things to be able to be ushered in if you want it to be. You mean picking and choosing, basically.
You mean the Martians are not running our country right now? Is that what you're trying to tell me? I'm just kidding.
They are.
Maybe they are, dude. Who knows? Oh, God, that's too funny. Oh, my God. I'll tell you, man.
I'm going to put the white lab coats down. Thank you. Anyways, what you're saying, Dan?
Well, I'm just for those of you that are hopeful, and I didn't give our disclaimer. This show is about education. It is not about trading. Anything that you learn from this show, again, is strictly education. We're not here to teach you how to trade. Strictly for entertainment purposes only. So if you're coming on just to figure out how to make some money, we're the wrong guys. We want to give you information. We want to give you information where you go do your due diligence and figure out what you want to do.
Yeah.
But we're not going to sit up here and endorse coins or anything like that. That's not going to happen.
Never. In fact, I'll be the first to tell you right now, I'm the world's worst trader. I'm horrible at trading, especially cryptocurrency. I'm super horrible at trading. I always say, Dan, if you want the price of a coin to go down, let me buy it. Because as soon as I hit that buy price, I'm like the anti-cooler with that.
I'm right there with you. But
I mean, here's the thing. So kind of get back to the point of it all, though, which is 80% of all the people that own Bitcoin right now are holding it. That means out of all the money that whatever the market cap for Bitcoin is right now, 80% of that market cap are people who haven't sold and are not selling. They're just holding.
Hey man, that's funny. It's funny you say that because man, I met a gentleman on a Zoom. He's from back east, and I got to know him a little bit on Zoom. And he's a very accomplished businessman, and that is, he's in his 70s, is super successful, doesn't need any money. He's retired with a high income, and he was telling me back in 2011 or so that his son told him about Bitcoin. He told him to put $1,000 into it. So that's when Bitcoin was around 30 cents. Mm-hmm. And I think he said he has like over 3,000 Bitcoin. And I said, well, what are you doing with it? He said, I just got it. I'm just sitting on it. I was like, well, you know what? I'm not that old. So if you would like to adopt me and make me one of your children so you can help me out. And we laughed, but I was serious. I was like, man, he's just, it's amazing.
I mean, here's the thing. This is where, to me, genius is subjective.
Right.
Because you're going to tell me that people that bought Bitcoin in 2011 knew it was going to go to $65,000? No way in hell. That's why almost everybody that I know that bought Bitcoin when it was $10 sold it at 100.
Right. Yeah.
Almost every single one. Because to be like, oh, I'm getting something for this and it's going to go to that is absolutely ridiculous. Wow. So I mean, kudos to him. Kudos to him, But at this point, it doesn't matter to this guy if it goes down to 10,000 or it goes up to.
He doesn't care.
3,000. It's absolutely insane.
He doesn't care. He just I've heard of other guys like him that people that know people that have something similar to that, and they're to the point they don't need it. You know
who Gary Vaynerchuk is? Gary V.
I've heard
a lot in crypto and Web3 space and NFTs.
Yeah. I've heard of him. Yeah. Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah. So he started out working for his dad's wine store like 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And he turned his dad's wine store from like making $4 million a year to like $150 million a year.
Wow.
And he's one of the very first people to like understand social media and understand how to use it for marketing. And I mean, we're talking years ago, and same thing with him. He literally was going away to Thailand for 6 months onto some stay away thing or whatever it is. This is before all of his super huge money.
Right.
And his friend was telling him about Bitcoin. And he's like, okay, oh hell, forget it. Here. And gave his buddy like $50,000 to buy Bitcoin when it was like $2.
Are you serious?
And then he came back like 6 months later and it was like $250 a coin or something like that. Anyways, that 50 grand, when he came back was like 3.5-4 million in 6 months. And then he was like, oh, I think I'm onto something. So he's held them ever since. But I mean, there's stories like that all over, which is, like I say, genius is subjective to a lot of different things.
Right.
Is it genius or it's just, hey man, what do they say? Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What's your bank account matter? It doesn't matter whether you got it from this way or this way. I mean, as long as
thank you. I agree. Man, it's crazy.
It's all subjective, man.
Have you seen any Web3 conferences coming to Vegas coming up soon? I just got an email about.
Yes, I am actually going to be. Do you know the Breathe convention?
No, what's that?
So the Breathe convention is from May 3rd to May 5th. And it's going to be at the Las Vegas Convention Center here. They're supposed to have between 5 to 6,000 people. So I actually just got elected to be a speaker there.
Oh, is that through Stormy?
Yes.
I'm gonna read. He didn't. Well, maybe he didn't like my speaking. I'm not. Whatever. Mm-hmm. He was considering me for a speaker there as well. What are you going to be speaking on?
Blockchain and real estate.
Okay. Oh, yeah. That's nice.
I mean, that's the overall theme, but I'm going to break it down to how blockchain is affecting real estate, tokenization, fractionalization, NFTs, just how to do real estate in metaverse, how it's going to intersect with Web3, and most importantly, kind of wrap it up with, as a realtor, as a real estate agent, how it's going to affect our role. And our business is going to be completely different as a real estate agent 10 years from now than it is right now. It's going to be all about volume and not leaving your house and strictly servicing a client. And the clients are going to be able to interact and do the transaction themselves with a few pushes of buttons. You're just never facilitating. That's the way it's going to be 10 years down the road, I'm telling you. A lot less commissions.
Wow. Have you ever seen Digital Perspectives? That's
no.
Brad Kimes. He's big on. He's one of the premier guys with a podcast, and he's huge. He's got a whole lot of followers. There's going to be a huge XRP convention in Vegas starting on May 5th.
Oh, they're having a huge Ripple one, huh?
Yeah, huge.
Well, that's funny because this one is May 3rd to May 5th, and then the Ripple one starts May 5th. I can just roll right into that one.
Yeah, that's what I plan on doing. I'm gonna go. I'll be down there regardless of whether I speak or not. I'll be down there just trying to gather, just some information for the show.
Well, come down, man. Come down and see me speak.
I am. Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely. We can promote the podcast down there.
Yeah.
So, I think we kind of covered what we wanted to cover today. And you know what, everyone, thanks for listening in. Come back. We'll be back in 2 weeks. This is the Crypto and Cash podcast. We'll have some new content for you next week. And again, our goal is to really help you understand what's going on in the crypto world, where you can understand it, not guys that are going to talk right over your head and you don't have a clue what the heck they're talking about. So I want to thank you very much for tuning in today. Brett, you got any last words to say?
That's it. I appreciate everyone watching, and see you in a couple of weeks.
All right. Thanks again.
PR Connection.